Hi, my name's Corinne Pierog, and I'm the Kane County Board Chairman, and this is another edition of Coffee with the Chairman, so welcome. Today's conversation I think you're going to find absolutely interesting. Several months ago, we were doing some research on having an Economic Development Council, an organization formed for Kane County. Well, got launched. And so we're starting out from the very beginning. We've done a lot of research, and our two speakers today are going to be talking all about it and how we can help Kane County further its economic opportunities and its richnesses, both economically and environmentally, through an economic development organization and its kind of partnership. So I'd like to introduce Chris Toth, who's on our staff, and he has been a planner with Kane County for about 9 years. He's worked on a lot of initiatives for economic development, and he is an amazing employee, and we're so fortunate to have him. And then we've got John Greuling, and John came to us from Will County, and John was in charge of Will County's economic development organization, and he became a consultant, and now he's helping us form the framework for our own economic development organization. So welcome, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
So, Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about the background? Has Kane County, before this, how have we been working in economic development?
We've been working in economic development any way we can. We've had a lot of challenges. As a county without an economic development organization, we've really had to rely on Mark Van Kerkhoff, our Director of Development, and myself to kind of fill in whatever economic development gaps that we can. Over the last 9 years, we've been involved in the first iteration of the regional partnership between the Collier counties, the City of Chicago, and Kane County, which was the Chicago Regional Growth Initiative, which became the Chicago Regional Growth Corporation. That's been...
It was like in 2014?
Yep, that's from 2014, correct. Those were beneficial in that it allowed Kane County to have some assistance from the regional experts in economic development to try and do what we can to support our local businesses, support our local municipalities. But at the same time, we've also been kind of building the plane as it's flying through the sky. And it's been a challenging journey, but we've also had a lot of successes in those partnerships, including grant programs to help local manufacturing, local business programs for cybersecurity, growing their business, marketing, and we've done what we can with what we have. But this has really opened a new door to being able to help the entire county's economy by getting people what they really need at different points at municipalities, different businesses, and whatnot.
So the resources, the financial resources that you used previously, where did that come from?
Riverboat money with the Elgin Casino Riverboat Fund funded our economic development activities. Prior to me joining the county in 2015, the county had just put money aside from the riverboat that had sat and really wasn't doing anything prior to about 2009 when we had our last economic development staff for the county.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there was that gap and there was some funding, so Mark Van Kerkhoff and I came up with some programs to utilize that fund to assist programs that were already in the region, like the former Metro Chicago Exports Export Grant Matching Program, where Kane County matched granting funds from another organization to help our local manufacturers grow their exporting business. And we did that program for about 6 years. We spent about $130,000 in funds, but it created about $10 million in exports and a little over 100 jobs.
Fantastic.
So we've just been trying to make do with the resources that we have, but it's been really exciting because now with the funding of the Economic Development Organization, the work of John Greuling joining our team, it really expanded our possibilities to help the county.
So the American Rescue Plan, which allowed for economic development and help get out of the COVID doldrums, allowed us $3 million as seed money to start this program. And here comes John. And now John can lead us on what are we going to do with that money and how that's going to be used as a foundation for developing our economic development organization.
Sure. The county has done some amazing things over the last couple of years in preparing for having a successful economic development organization. One of the things that, coincidental my start with the county here, you engaged another consultant to do a strategic economic development strategy. And that's a very important piece of building sort of the foundation for a successful economic development effort. That strategy profiles the industries that are here, that are thriving, some of the industries that maybe need some help. It identified the strengths and the assets of the communities. You have, 30 municipalities in the county? Or is it down to 29?
29 now.
Whatever. It's a big number, and all of them at some level are engaged in local economic development.
Yes.
But the strategy pointed out the fact that, if you had a collaboration that was countywide, each of the individual programs would be more successful. And I firmly believe that's the case. So with the study done and the commitment from the county using their ARPA funds to seed this new entity, we're ready to launch a Kane County Economic Development Organization. And in my mind, the best approach here, and the study that was done, the strategy, suggested a public-private organization, a public-private partnership.
Of course.
There's a lot to be said for municipalities that are out doing economic development on their own. And in some cases, counties can have an economic development specialist or department. But when you get into the realm of urban, rural, and suburban economic development, you really need a lot of sophistication in your program and your application. And I think the approach that Kane County is taking, it really sort of fits that scope. So I think, from this point forward, we're going to see a lot of energy put into this. And, we can't do this by ourselves. The county can't do this by themselves.
No.
And you've already figured that out.
Yes.
So as we move forward, we're going to be talking with the municipal leadership. We've already started reaching out to them. I've worked very closely with some of the municipalities on some projects. The other group that we need to spend a lot of time with is the private sector. And you and I have talked about that.
Absolutely.
The leadership core of this economic development organization, for the most part, needs to be mostly private sector leaders.
Absolutely.
They will be able to influence, if you will, the activities of this economic development organization. The other thing is, hopefully they'll write us some checks. The last thing we want is an organization that is financially struggling. And I think the preparation we've done for a Kane County group, I see that as not happening. I think we're going to be very successful.
I think we have no choice.
Right.
We have no choice. We must succeed.
Yeah.
So we joined the Greater Economic Chicagoland Partnership.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about that and let our viewers know what that is and how we are interfacing with them and what supports they're able to provide for us?
Sure.
And vice versa.
Well, the GSEP, or the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, so I'll make sure I get it right as well, started about a year ago. It arose out of a partnership with the City of Chicago and the 7 collar counties. But what made this a very more powerful relationship than previous iterations was the inclusion of World Business Chicago and the resources and knowledge base that they have. So what's been really beneficial for Kane County is not only having a world-class business services as part of the City of Chicago to assist us, but also some of the other services they provide, like data services. So, for example, when businesses are looking in Kane County or the region to maybe move their business here or to expand here, prior to working with the regional partnership, we would have to pay someone, we'd have to look on the internet, we'd have to struggle to find the data that we needed to kind of help them guide those potential applicants to coming out to Kane County. But now we, as part of this partnership, we have access to data services that are world-class so that we can get instant data services instant data to provide to those businesses to help attract them to Kane County. Kane County does a lot of great things, and it's easy to talk of our story, but it's also very challenging to come up with the numbers that they require to bring their businesses here. So we've had that wonderful relationship. They've also, part of having John on our team is being able to respond to these RFIs or business prospects that they're bringing out to the region. We are getting a lot more interest in the region than we have in the previous few years. And having someone with high-level data services, high-level personnel that can help guide those to our region has just been a big blessing. We didn't have that before. Typically, when a business was interested in Kane County, it was almost like a fire sale. It was getting everyone on board, meeting quickly, trying to find what we could, attract them with what we had. But now there's a much more streamlined process to having prospects come out our way. And being able to respond to those quickly and effectively has just generated more interest in Kane County. So this partnership is just continuing to open more doors from what we had previously.
Okay. So we have, hypothetically, John, we have a business now who's been introduced to Kane County. How do we court them? What is the process? What do we do?
Well, usually the first step is, find out what their needs are. A lot of projects come to us unnamed. Many times we don't know who the company is. Sometimes it's represented by a consultant, sometimes a industrial or commercial broker is knocking on the door. So one of the things we try to do early on is find out who is the decision maker, and how do we get in front of that person or those people. And that can frustrate some of the people representing the company, because they're very careful and cautious. On the other hand, sometimes we deal directly with the company, and that's usually a very refreshing experience. Somebody that's in the business, maybe it's a privately held business, and they're growing. And those are fun projects because there's a lot that's going on there. So what we do is, number one, as Chris said, information is king. We have to have current data on just about any aspect of our community. It might be water supply, water quality. It might be energy supply. It could be workforce questions. It may be how far away are you from an international airport. If I decide to come to Kane County and build a building, how long is it going to take me to get a building permit?
Correct.
I need to be in a building in 12 months. Can you make sure that the people that are in charge of issuing permits understand how that's going to work? And sometimes, and we were talking earlier about this, public policy has a lot to do with economic development success.
How? Tell me.
It's interesting. I've been doing this a long time, maybe too long. But you'll have a mayor out there, say, as an example, that says, I'm the economic development mayor. I'm going to welcome all businesses here. And we're going to treat you right, and you're going to be welcome here, and we'll have the ribbon cutting on Main Street, and the high school band will be there. And they're very excited about winning. Well, so we bring a client as perhaps the staff person for the economic development organization to the mayor, introduce them. He says, yeah, we'll help you with everything. And the business person or the prospect walks out thinking, wow, this is going to be a great experience. Well, a couple weeks later, they come in for a building permit, and the first thing they're told is, well, it's going to take us probably 4 months to review this permit application. And, oh, by the way, you're going to need a zoning change. And did you know there's not a water line to your site? So what sounded like a great idea up front, and again, I'm not faulting the mayor for putting the position, his community or
the
her
enthusiasm
community
forward.
That's important, but the back office has to be really engaged.
Okay.
And that's where the economic development team comes into play. And that's the neat thing about a county organization. We anticipate to have very sophisticated staff people that will be able to not get in the way of the local mayor or the Chamber of Commerce or the person that owns the buildings. We want to be able to provide a service that will end up in a win. Because you never know who came in second in economic development. I mean, that's quickly forgotten.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think it's a very important aspect that I think communities really need to understand how that works.
So I've got some data that I received from the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, and it's called CMAP. And here is, let me get my clip out, the industries that are here in Kane County and the percentage. The highest percentage we have is in manufacturing. Then we have healthcare. Then retail trade, all the wonderful stores that we all like to shop at. Education, our universities, junior colleges, as well as, of course, I have to say, I think many of us moved here because of the quality of our public schools. And administration. So where in all of that does the Economic Development Council fit into?
Well, certainly knowing what the profile of the business community is in the county, and quite frankly, leading with manufacturing as the largest sector, is pretty significant.
Yes, indeed.
Because when you look at those kinds of businesses that add the most value, if you will, to the community, oftentimes it's going to be your manufacturers. Mm-hmm. Because they're trading nationally and in a lot of cases internationally.
Correct.
So they're creating wealth because of who they do business with. Mm-hmm. They'll do business locally, but for the most part, they're trading outside of the immediate market. And so that's new money into the community. On the other hand, if you don't have solid health care, for that to come in second is also significant. Mm-hmm. Because the quality of health care, and the importance of that really got a boost during COVID.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, how many county health officials, administrators, had no idea what they were dealing with? It was like drinking from a fire hose. And overnight, they had to become experts. In something that was critical for
rare and
unusual. Yes, but at the same time, reflecting on the numbers that you're mm-hmm. talking about, we obviously have a good critical mass there. Mm-hmm. So, what the Economic Development Organization will be able to do is identify those clusters of success, and it might be in metal bending. It might be in finishes and ceramics. It might be in some technology. But if we have a concentration of businesses in those sectors, that's something we can sell. Because nobody wants to be alone when you're a manufacturer in a region. I mean, you'll have that. But if you look at places like Silicon Valley or some of the old industrial sectors of Chicago, they thrived because there was many employers hiring from the same labor pool. Mm-hmm. And these folks still today have to have certain skills. Mm-hmm. And if those are already in place, that's something we can tell a prospect that's looking at Kane County, hey, by the way, we've got a lot of widget experts here. And we also know that 12% of them are currently unemployed. So that's the kind of data that can really sell, if you will, and these companies will be very interested, and they need that information to make a decision.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, a little bit of change. So we're talking about manufacturing, but what about food manufacturing? What about our agricultural industries? Chris, can you speak to that?
Yeah, we've learned a lot in the last few years of what we have and what we don't have in the Kane County, and we have a very strong agricultural base. And one of the things that we can utilize to attract even more food manufacturing, not just to ourselves but to other parts of the region, is leveraging our agricultural base, our proximity to transportation, our proximity to the city of Chicago, and also the fact that we have existing food manufacturers in the county that have been here for long periods of time. John talks about recruiting the right people for our economic development organization. And one of those industries that we have the possibility of targeting is food manufacturing, because we have a strong base of existing food manufacturers here. Some of our biggest employers in the Kane County are food manufacturers. J.B. Sanfilippo and Sons in Elgin is one of our biggest employers.
And Aldi.
Yep, and Aldi Batavia. And so we already have that base of companies here that love Kane County that are in food. And so how do we utilize what they saw in Kane County to attract more companies out here? And how do we work with our agricultural programs to expand not just what we grow, but what animals are processed, our different aspects of food manufacturing? How do we work with what we have to grow those industries? It's interesting because Chicago has always had a history of food. I mean, it's
oh yes, the meat capital.
Yeah, it's the meat capital, and You know, to this day, it still is. It's a big hub of food coming in and food going out. And Kane County has some of the most fertile soil in the country, if not on the planet. So how do we work with our farmers? And one of the potential components of our economic development organization will be agriculture and attracting different agricultural manufacturers to the county.
Now, when you talk about agriculture, many people think about soy and corn, which is, everybody's got soy and corn fields in this area. But during one of our conversations, it was brought up about growing locally sourced food. So how can we assist with that? Because that is a growing interest of having locally sourced food that is not only just to support Kane County's needs, but export it out to other communities and or restaurants.
And that's a great question. Kane County Development has a great relationship with our existing Farm Bureau, with the Agricultural Committee of the Kane County Board, and just bringing those people to the table when we start developing our economic development organization and bringing the farmers in at that initial point when we're trying to figure out the vision of what we're trying to attract. That's one of the assets we have of starting an economic development organization right now, as opposed to some of the existing organizations, is we still have a lot of say in who can come to the table, what our vision is, what problems we're going to try to solve. And I see something where maybe a subcommittee of the board of the EDO, or just having some food manufacturers and agricultural companies on our board to say this is what we need to attract those type of companies. And also the development department has been working with ARPA funds to do livestock programs and to attract specialty crop programs to the county, and just kind of a multi-pronged attack of attracting different types of food producers, not just the agriculture, but the livestock, specialty crop producers. We have a great history of farm food markets. Farmers markets. Farmers markets in the county, and those are really popular. And leveraging those to attract more farmers from inside the county to produce goods.
Yeah,
So,
I think one of the things we need to understand, though, is a little more about our ag community. I mean, we can look at the numbers of bushels of corn and soybeans, and we can talk to farmers that are maybe trying different crops. But I think part of the work of a county economic development group would be to do a deeper dive on agriculture. There's a wish for the county leadership to preserve agriculture.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, excuse the expression, that's been in my face since I got here. And I appreciate that. I really do. I understand that. It's more than just a passion, though. It's business.
It is a business.
And, you know, I think when you talk about the farming of the future, we're talking about a much different thing than we have today. The application of new technologies, for example. Our gentleman that's the private sector person on the GSEP group.
Steve is our representative on the farm community.
Right. He was telling me about one of his harvesters is autonomous. And that he's running tests right now on some of his acreage. They're not doing it whole hog, excuse the pun, but they are very interested in using this technology. So that's one thing that's going on. The other thing is, what are the other opportunities in terms of diversifying our crop base?
Yeah.
You know, you talk about local food needs. You know, farm to table is very popular in a lot of parts of this country. It's amazing how much of this is going on in Kentucky and Tennessee and southern Indiana. I mean, I think there's a real opportunity, especially with a community like Geneva. I mean, you know, you could have a half a dozen farm-to-table restaurants that would thrive in this tourist environment we have here. But who's going to be growing these crops? So you almost need to do a market analysis on demand, and I think from that point, we'll be able to do a little more diligence and maybe even craft some special programs, whether they be incentives or you know, providing special training for workers. But I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
So one of the things that Kane County has, and what John was speaking about, is we've got this beautiful layering of the county. We've got urban represented. We have suburban with the historic towns, Geneva, Batavia, St. Charles, Maple Park, and there's small rural towns that we truly treasure and we want to preserve. And wrapped around all of that is acres and acres of agriculture. So we've got all this open land interspersed with our forest preserves. So it's a delicate balance that we have here in Kane County to keep that beauty of that open space, which is 5 minutes away from our urban space. And they coalesce and they live together very organically and naturally. And going forward to future generations, it is the will of the board and desire of the communities to maintain that for all the right reasons. So we've got that. Now let's go on to what is fun about Kane County, which is we've got a lot of fun opportunities. The Fox River being one, and other economic opportunities that are based with tourism. So.
Well, I think the designation of the Fox River as a national
water trail?
Yeah. I mean, that alone, the marketing opportunities there are tremendous. And I think, having grown up in the city, Oak Park and Hillside and Westchester, Kane County was a faraway place, but it was always a place to visit, because there was a lot of welcoming things going on there from, and I hate to use the word tourism, but that's really what it was. It was a day trip, out to Geneva or
Nothing
St.
wrong
Charles.
with tourism.
And growing up, it was an eye opener to understand that, wow, this is an amazing asset, and it's not so far from the city, like you said. But I think there's tremendous marketing opportunity there that I know Chris and Mark have been working on.
Yeah, there's a great program where we've partnered with the Aurora Area Convention and Visitor Bureau and the Elgin Area Convention and Visitor Bureau to put together a program to have a specific marketing for Kane County, because currently we don't have any marketing arm for the county's tourism. We've been relying on partnerships with Elgin and Aurora, but separately. Utilizing a program funded by the American Rescue Plan funds, we're working on a marketing campaign for the entirety of the county to kind of give the county its own vision as we put it out there to attract people to come here and stay. And John hit it right on the head when we had the designation of the National Water Trail for the fabulous Fox Water Trail. I mean, that just opened, it just opened up a lot of different doors. And I remember during the pandemic, seeing so many times people out and riding their bikes along the river or paddling on the river, and more than I'd ever seen. And that was a great starting point to build on that momentum. And through some great planning, we were able to put together some partnerships with those ARP funds that say, we're ready to attract you. Here's what we have. And that's something we weren't doing before. So it's just more opportunities from things that just keep growing.
And the Kane County Cougars certainly is one of those. You'll talk to people who may not know Kane County, but oh boy, do they know the Kane County Cougars.
Yeah. I love those Friday night fireworks. I mean, I can see them from my house every Friday night. It sounds like a war zone, but it's one of those beautiful fireworks, and it's so loud, and you can always see people coming and going to the baseball games. It's really great.
Yeah, and the thing that maybe those that have grown up here and live here and enjoy everything, you don't realize you've got so many downtowns that are, they're historical, but they're being preserved.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, not to say anything bad about Will County, there were communities there that were hamlets, and then all of a sudden they exploded with subdivisions, and then they tried to create a downtown.
Correct, yes,
So
manufactured downtown.
they built a big city hall and a new library and maybe a school. That's not downtown.
No.
You come into Kane County, and it seems like as I toured around this past year, every town I went to had
a proper downtown.
It's amazing. And I think, again, coming a little bit from the outside, you really begin, hopefully, to be able to tell an interesting story about that. And I think the fact that these communities understand that and they celebrate it, and you've got more farm festivals and 5K races, and light up the night and bands on the square. What I want to see here more of is kayaks. You need more kayaks in this county. I mean, this is really. I mean, I'm
No one is
very
gonna
serious
argue.
about that. Now I know there's a dam issue there, but I think at some point, exploring more use of the river itself
I
would
agree.
bring some more
Agreed.
income.
And that'll bring all small businesses here. The
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, the people who like outdoor adventure can come here
Yeah.
and participate and start up a small business.
Yeah.
I was hearing something on the Rio Grande that it has dried up, and in certain sections of it. And they say that if you want to explore the Rio Grande, don't worry about getting wet. If you fall in, you're just going to dust yourself off. so
That's sad.
Yeah.
it's sad,
Yeah.
but that is just the way it's been, and it's control of water now as well from Mexico. But that's not the point of the story. The point is that they pivoted.
Yeah.
They pivoted from using the river as their tourist destination to now hiking the river, to traveling through trails that were not available before.
Yeah.
So they're pivoting. And the same way here, that we are pivoting from an industrial use river to now a river that we want to celebrate with clean water, with egrets in there, and all sorts of fish that may not have been there before, and river otters, which only require clean water, and to enjoy the river. But we can't do it because there's a limited supply of industry to allow us to do that.
Sure.
And that will eventually be developed because of this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So will there be your thoughts going forward on this EDO? Big business requires some type of economic supports from time to time.
Right.
I know Lake County has that, and DuPage County has that as well. I can't speak to Kane County yet because we're still formatting that. But that's for big business. But will there be supports, similar supports, on teaching our diverse population? Because over 33% of our population here is Hispanic. A lot of small business owners. Are we going to encourage them to expand, to learn how to expand, or simply how to learn how to manage their own businesses very effectively?
It would be a crime if we didn't do that,
Good.
Madam
Good.
Chairman. I think the opportunity for minority business development in Kane County is actually extraordinary. I was actually taken aback, quite frankly, when first of all, I learned about all the manufacturing in this county, and all of the small and mid-cap manufacturers, a lot of them still privately owned, an amazing critical mass that we talked about before. I think the Economic Development Organization for Kane County will need to look at creating some sort of minority business enterprise
Absolutely.
organization.
Good.
Now, will we provide direct services? I don't know. I think we need to look at our partners at the community colleges, some of the larger chambers of commerce. I think there's a real opportunity for collaboration there. But I think you hit on it. There needs to be, sort of an education tool available. Entrepreneurial development is fun, but it's rigorous, and there's a lot of failure.
But entrepreneurs should be allowed to fail.
Well, and that's the point. We need to provide the canvas, if you will, for those kinds of activities to occur. We can prop them up. We can help them secure some funding. We can help them look for workers, or come out with a new idea. But at the end of the day, they have to succeed on their own capabilities and their own success.
Correct.
So, but I think I think entrepreneurial support generally needs to be part of any economic development program. We'd be foolish to not do that. The number of small businesses that have been created since 2019 in this country is astounding.
Absolutely.
Millions and millions and millions of new companies. Now again, there's a few million of those that have fallen off, but more than likely they've gotten back on the saddle and are doing
something
it again.
else. Yes.
So that's part of the nature of our quote business community, and I think to not recognize that through a county program, like I said, it would be foolish.
Okay, so we're going to be, this whole economic development organization is going to be big tent, should I say,
Mm.
from helping and support the needs of large business, which is complex, include housing options, educational training through our colleges and universities, but universities truly, as well as colleges. Public schools also to support that, so they can go directly into industry, as well as our small entrepreneurs, our agricultural business as well. So it's going to go be a support system, from what I'm hearing, from the micro business to the macro business.
Yeah. And I think, what we need to understand, though, is there's going to be a few things this organization can do very well.
We can't do everything. I
And
agree.
we need to put our stake in the ground on what those are.
I agree.
And we've talked about probably all of them here today. But I think to refine that into a program, and to some degree, we're going to have to sell this. What's in it for me is going to be a lot of the questions that we get. When the economic developer for the county shows up and says, I'm from the county and I'm here to help you. We've got to be able to actually show something that's going to stick and help these companies. But I think it goes without question that we're going to be able to succeed at that.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
So when do you think we're going to start, Chris? When do you think we're going to start having the first time to meet with potential board members for this?
That's what the summer's for. It's
It's
a great
the
time to
summer.
get outside, see the county, and start meeting with people about economic development. Now that the funds are in place, the steps have to be. We're going to make sure we do everything right, because this is a great opportunity to start from the ground up. But first, we need to find out who we need to talk to. We need to start getting them into the boat, and then we find out who we haven't talked to and start talking to them as well. But this summer is just starting getting the work really. The easy part's over.
Yes.
Now,
plan.
the easy part's there. It's all fun and it's all fun and games when it's on paper. But now, everyone who's been working hard on this for the last couple of years is going to be out working with the communities, working with our economic development partners. We're working with the colleges, working with business owners. Everyone who needs to have a voice in this needs to be contacted and needs to have a conversation. So this summer is when we're just going to start meeting with our partners that have been very supportive of us throughout this process, and say, all right, what are you looking at for this organization? What's going to be the way that this organization can benefit you? How do you see your role or your organization's role in this EDO? And how can you support us in doing that? And it's going to take some time, but like I said, we've gotten used to building the plane in motion, so it's par for the course.
Yeah, I think the first thing is to actually create a corporation. A public-private, not-for-profit corporation.
Good.
And
good.
there's, it could be a 501c6.
Like the baseline, good. Yes.
I mean, we have, and then the second thing is and along with that, is to create a leadership group, a core leadership group. And let's call it the first board of directors. It could be 6 people, it could be 16 people. It's not going to be 60 people.
No. You don't want it yet.
No, you don't. Eventually, you may want that,
No,
but
start
at the
small.
end of the day, we're going to have to look for those champions that believe in this county and their communities and want to, sweat a little bit to make it better. And I think that's what it's going to take. And I think it's here. I mean, I think, now that we have the strategy pretty much done.
Yep.
And we certainly have a pretty good idea of what structurally this thing should look like. We just need to start putting the pieces together.
Good. And both small and large business and medium-sized businesses, of course, are going to be represented with that, with the diverse sector that we talked about before.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go on a limb here. I think by the fourth quarter of this year, we should have an organization in place.
Good.
And whether they're in a position to start hiring people or not, that'll be up to the group.
Absolutely.
And certainly input from yourself and the county leadership will all be a part of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Kane County is in very exciting times, launching this economic development organization in partnership with our communities, our 29 communities, as well as with our other counties. This is not something we're doing alone. We're looking at partnership because what happens in Elgin is going to help support Aurora and vice versa. So we are in all of it together. And the benefit of what may be happening in one of our other counties may also provide an opportunity for us to be successful. So it really is a regional effort we're putting forward. But right now, to my delight, and I think to all of our delight, Kane County is able to step up and very soon to be a serious player in all of this.
Yes.
So thank you both very much.
Thanks for having us.
Yes,
This
thank
has
you very
been
much.
wonderful. And thanks for stopping by to have coffee with us. Bye, everybody.